Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us on our third parent hour of the semester. My name is Jessica Nicklin. I'm the Associate Vice President for Student Success, and I've been hosting these parent hours. I know some of you, I recognize the names, joined us last week or the week before. And as Catherine and Michelle know, this is something we kicked off last year for the first time, and we would try to do it maybe every other week just to cover timely topics that were important for families and students to know. And when we kicked off the semester, it felt like all everybody wanted to talk about was COVID, naturally. So we said, well, it felt a little, awkward or artificial to put up a calendar of topics that we weren't sure people really wanted to cover. But as the semester went on, we realized that there's regular business to be done, like registering for classes and paying for bills and using our services. And we really wanted to make sure we were connecting with our students and our families. So thank you so much for joining us tonight. Last week, we talked about registration for the spring semester. If you missed that, then you can get the recording right on the parents page under the parent hours, right on the UHeart website. And the week before, we talked about all of the COVID response. So both of those recordings are available for you. So I am excited to introduce my two colleagues, Catherine and Michelle, who are going to take you through the very exciting topic, what they live and breathe, of billing and financial aid. So very important stuff, and I'm really glad to have them here. So welcome, everybody. We discussed in advance, and we're going to let them do their presentation and then address questions at the end, just because the nature of the topic, it seems like that would be easiest. So go ahead and pop your questions in the Q&A, and we'll get to them at the end. Take it away, ladies.
Thanks, Jess. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Good evening. Again, as Jess mentioned, my name is Catherine Deacon, and I am the Director of Student Financial Aid at the University of Hartford. I may have met some of you, or some of you may have sat in presentations that I did over the summer as we were getting ready to start the fall semester. So happy to have you all here this evening. Michelle, do you want to just introduce yourself quickly?
Sure. Good evening, everybody. I'm Michelle Jarvis-Letman. I'm the bursar here at the University of Hartford, and as many of you, this will also be my first spring semester going through it as well. So we're going to make sure we all get the right information, and it's scary for me too. So we'll figure it out together.
Thanks, Michelle. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and kick it off this evening. This evening we are just going to do a quick kind of overview of how to renew the FAFSA form, which many of you may have already completed. Also talk about satisfactory academic progress and how it relates to a student's financial aid account. And then I'll move it over to Michelle, where she'll talk about kind of the spring billing timeline and how to set up payment plans for spring and all of that important stuff that you need to know about. So just getting started here, at this point in the semester, many students have already completed all of their financial aid requirements, but there are still a number of students who haven't. So if you're not sure if your student has completed their missing documents, please have them log into their self-service account as soon as possible to check to make sure that we aren't requesting anything from them. We have been emailing and calling students throughout the semester. That being said, that doesn't mean everything has been completed yet. So again, please have the student log into their self-service account to double check. You will find missing document information listed under the financial aid tab and by clicking on the eligibility link. So it would let the student know exactly what's missing. They can click on each one of the documents. It will tell them exactly how to complete that document, where to complete it, let them know, what the status of the document is. So if for some reason they completed it, but we requested something additional, it would let them know that right through self-service. Most students have documents that are part of our verification process. And so verification is a process in which the U.S. Department of Education requires the Office of Financial Aid to supply or to request from each student tax information or verification worksheet. But again, those documents should have been completed at this point. It, at this point, is delaying financial aid from being applied to a student account. So again, it's really important that that gets done and reviewed in a timely manner. Satisfactory academic progress. So at the University of Hartford, students are required to meet minimum academic standards in order for their financial aid to continue on from each academic year. And so what we call that is satisfactory academic progress. Satisfactory academic progress is a measure of two different types of information. The first is a cumulative grade point average. That's usually between a 1.8 and a 2.0. Again, these are the minimum standards. So each program may have a higher required cumulative GPA. So the student should check in with their academic advisor just to confirm that. The other measure of academic progress is a successful completion of credits. So for each academic year, which is the fall and the spring semester, most degree programs require between 24 and 28 credits. Again, they can check in with their first year advisor to find out exactly what their particular program requires. At the end of the fall semester, my office is going to do an unofficial review of the student's academic standing. And if the student hasn't met minimum standards based on one semester worth of coursework, we are going to send the student an email and a letter letting them know that. After the spring semester, we will do our official review of academic progress. And at that point in time, if the student has not met the minimum standards, then their financial aid will not renew for the next academic year. They will have an opportunity over the summer to take summer coursework, whether at the University of Hartford or locally if needed. But again, the unofficial review will happen at the end of the fall semester. So the student does get that letter. It's really important that they work with their academic advisor or their first year advisor to talk through that and to see, what changes they can make, moving into the spring semester, but they set themselves up to be successful by the end of the spring semester. We have lots of resources on this campus that students can utilize to make sure that they're setting themselves on a good track. So again, just something to keep in mind in terms of renewing aid after their first year. Another important thing to mention about renewing aid from one year to the next is that the FAFSA form, or the free application for federal student aid, does need to be completed each academic year. So at this point in time, believe it or not, the FAFSA form for the 2021-2022 academic year is actually available. It became available on October 1st. So that's something that you can do now, again, to set the student up to be ready to move into their second year here at the University of Hartford. Just keep in mind that the 21-22 FAFSA is going to use 2019 tax information. So that's that tax information that was due back earlier this year. So again, 2019 tax information for that particular FAFSA form. For our returning students, the FAFSA deadline is not until April 1st of 2021. That being said, one less thing to worry about if you get it done sooner than that. In terms of actually renewing financial aid based on the results of the FAFSA, we won't do that until the end of the spring semester. And so you do have some time, but again, you want to meet that April 1st deadline in order to make sure that you're renewing all of your financial aid. One important thing that I want to talk to you all about this evening is that here at the University of Hartford, we understand that many families have been impacted by COVID-19 from an income perspective or from a financial perspective. We understand that families face unemployment, face job loss, face furloughs. And so what we are telling families at this point in time is that you must complete the FAFSA using the 2019 tax information, even though it might not be reflective of your current financial standing or your current income level. So complete the FAFSA using 2019, and then in the spring, April or so, get in contact with our office. Our contact information will be at the end of this presentation, and we'll walk you through, what can be done, if anything, to adjust the information that's on the FAFSA to be more reflective of the current financial situation. So again, you still have to complete the FAFSA form, and you still want to use the correct tax year. Don't make any assumptions or changes on your own. Allow our office to go ahead and make those changes for you. This is always the perfect time of year to send a reminder out to families to talk about applying for additional scholarships. So when I say applying for additional scholarships, I mean scholarships outside of what the university has to offer to students. So when the student was in high school, their guidance office probably sent out lots of information about different local scholarships that the student can apply for. You probably all remember Naviance from when the student was in high school. Here at the University of Hartford, the university does post a number of outside scholarship search engines right through our hartford.edu/FinAid website. So students can use that to apply for scholarships. I always tell students the best time of year to apply for scholarships is that winter break, where you're not having to worry about classes, usually before the deadlines that are required to apply for those scholarships for the next academic year. It's probably too late to receive any scholarships specifically for the spring 21 semester, but definitely the perfect time of year to start applying for scholarships for fall of 2021. These scholarships usually come from, civic organizations, churches, nonprofit organizations. Sometimes a parent's employer may have these additional scholarship funds. So again, a great opportunity is winter break. So put that on the students' radar, have them start thinking about it. Many times, again, students for their first year apply for lots of scholarships, but then sort of forget about it moving into their second or third year. So just, again, put it on the calendar as something to start doing, within the next month or two. One important piece of information that we want to talk to you about this evening is kind of how the spring 2021 billing is going to look different as compared to fall of 2020. And the reason it's going to look different is because, as everybody here knows, room and board charges were reduced because the university is closing the residential side of campus for the last 2 weeks of the semester. And so, again, we've already taken that into consideration with how the student was billed for fall of 2020. And it is reduced by about, likely around $500 between room and board. Our students who are not living on campus probably won't see a big change from how much they were billed from fall of 2020 to how much they're being billed for spring of 2021. But again, our residential students may see that change. So when you're thinking about either setting up a payment plan, which Michelle will talk about with you, or thinking about taking an additional loan for spring, just keep in mind that likely your charges are going to be a little bit different for the spring semester. If for some reason you get your spring 2021 bill and you've borrowed on a loan through our office or through the U.S. Department of Education, and you feel that you need to increase that loan amount, definitely contact my office. We're here to help walk you through that, help you figure out the easiest way to go ahead and make that change to your loan amount. So again, it's just something to keep in mind. We don't want any surprises for you all once that spring 2021 bill comes out. And so we just want to just make mention of that. At this point, I will turn it over to Michelle, who will talk a little bit more about the spring billing and some other things that you want to keep in mind.
Thanks, Catherine. So as Catherine mentioned, spring 2021 bills will be going out in December, probably around the 8th, so that first full week in December once we get back from Thanksgiving break. I know your students will be home, but we'll all still be working. The bill will be due January 8th, so we have multiple billing cycles, so each month a billing statement will be released, and there will be a due date at the end of that bill. Please note, though, there will not be late fees assessed if you do not pay by that January deadline. We know things have changed. Students may be in and out and try to figure out their schedules still, and classes won't have started yet. So we will we'll give you guys some flexibility and some time to make sure that you get things in order before we start assessing late fees, because that won't go on until after the February break. The February bill will start assessing late fees if the bill isn't satisfied at that point. So there's a slight change to the spring payment plan. It's going to open up November 15th instead of November 1st. We're trying to align it with advanced registration that's going to start happening the first week of November. So you can kind of get a sense of what your student is planning on doing, and you can make an estimate based on what they're registered for to start opening up the plan. The enrollment fee is going to stay the same, and your first payment will be due December 15th, which will be nice because then if you need to make adjustments to that plan, you'll have your billing statement in December to make adjustments as needed. Your student can find a link into their self-service to access the payment plan directly, and they can set that up right online. Some of your students will have gotten a notification regarding a hold on their account if they still have an outstanding balance for fall. So we really want to make sure that these charges are paid in full before the spring semester started. Some balances, if they're higher, they will prevent them from registering for the spring semester, and we want to make sure the student can get registered as quickly as possible and get the classes that they'll need to continue their education. So if they have received a communication from our office or CSS, they'll really want to be in contact with one of those two areas to try to get that balance paid down so that they can register for the next semester. Like I said, if their charges are not paid in full from fall with spring, there could be consequences. So please reach out to us. You can email us. We're on campus currently until, the Thanksgiving break as well, so they can set up an appointment with us. We can do a Zoom. We can do a WebEx. We really just want to hear from the students and make sure that their bill is satisfied so they're not holding up any type of registration or any other further consequences can happen for them. So like I said, if we do have questions, concerns, or comments, our email addresses are listed here. It's the best way to get a hold of us because some of our staff, we are still remote back and forth. Email is the best way of communication. I do ask that you just give us, a couple of days to respond because we all are remote and a lot of our traffic has now become virtual. So we need a couple of days to respond accordingly and make sure we're getting you the correct information. And Catherine, do you have anything else you need to add?
Sure, I would just jump in. I do realize that I didn't mention how the financial aid office was operating in this virtual environment. So we are planning to remain open, throughout the winter break. But as Michelle said, we are operating a little bit on a reduced staff is because we are partially operating remotely and partially operating in person. So you can get a hold of us via phone or via email. But again, our contact information for our email addresses are up on the screen now. We are accepting students to come visit the office, but again, as an appointment only. So I think at this point, Jess, unless you have anything you'd like to add, we will open up the Q&A. So I do see some questions coming in, regarding a couple of different things. So I think I'll answer some of them verbally, if that's helpful, just to start. We have one question here that came in that I did answer privately, but I do think is worthwhile to mention to the full group, which is that residential hall charges for the spring semester are not going to be reduced. Even though the residential campus is not opening until February, we are going to keep the residential halls open for the length of a typical semester. So there will not be a change to the room and board costs for the fall semester. So I did see that question come in. Jess, I know you're monitoring the Q&A. Are there any others?
Okay. You mean that there won't be any changes for the spring semester, right?
Correct. Yep. So the spring semester costs will be our standard costs, and those are listed right through the Bursar website. I can throw the link in the chat to everyone so that they can have that.
Okay, I forget that I get some of the questions privately too. So this I have, so if a grandparent wants to help with a tuition bill and pays you Hart directly, would the gift count against Medicare 5-year look back period?
I don't think I've ever had that question asked before. That might be something to ask a tax preparer, honestly. The payment would just be noted as a standard payment from the bursar perspective and from the 1098T perspective, but I'm not sure how Medicare would look at that.
Yeah, that's why I asked. I was like, I have no idea how to answer this one. Okay, here's an easier one. Can you please repeat the web address you mentioned for the additional scholarships?
I actually will go ahead and throw it in the chat for everybody, if that's easier. But it's just hartford.edu/FinAid. But I'll throw the longer link in the chat so that everyone can have access to it.
Okay, here's a question. So if the payment plan first due date is December 15th, but at that point you won't know if the student has been academically successful in order to be able to come back. So is there any other payment plan where you could start paying once final grades are in, or can you get the money back if the students are not successful and decide not to come back?
You can definitely get your money back up until, let's see, the first week of classes. We give 100% refund. You can also, if you want to wait till grades pop out, you can start the 4-month payment plan in January as well. So you would just start a little later and have to make a bigger payment up front. So those would be your 2 options if you wanted to wait to see if your student did well or not.
So if a family would like to set up an appointment to confirm that all documents have been submitted and the funds released, what would be the best way to go about doing that?
Sure. I would say the best way is to email finaid@hartford.edu requesting an appointment time, and one of our financial aid counselors or assistant directors of financial aid can reach out to the family to schedule a virtual appointment or can answer their questions via email. If they just want to, say, are we all set with everything? We can definitely just answer that via email as well.
Are there differences in the process if the student has a talent scholarship from the Hart School?
There aren't differences in the process, although any performing arts scholarships do have a little bit of a higher GPA in order to renew them. So students must maintain, in order for their performing arts scholarship to renew, must maintain a cumulative 2.75 in all of their courses, or a 3.0 in courses specific to their major. Again, we're not going to do an official review of that until the end of the spring semester. So they will have the spring semester. If they fall under that threshold for the fall, they will have the spring semester to make that up. But yes, it is a little bit of different renewability criteria for that particular award.
So we'll give you attendees a few minutes to think if you have other questions. A suggestion that came out is if you could slowly scroll through the slides so folks could take screenshots of some of the pages.
Sure, I can do that.
Okay with you. And in the meantime, if you have any other remaining questions, on a payment plan, can they pay by check?
Yes, they can. There's an option to put your routing and bank account information through the self-service to pay by check.
You can go ahead and take some screenshots now if you'd like. Beautiful slides, Catherine and Michelle.
It's definitely all Catherine. Good job, Catherine.
while we're going through these, I'll put a plug in. Parents, if we were so worried about COVID, right? If your students have not submitted their immunization paperwork yet, please have them do it. I just saw the slide about holds on accounts, and so the regular immunization, they probably did, go and see their physician and get their shots and whatnot, but we're reconciling all that and, have some outstanding folks who haven't turned their paperwork in. So if you think you might be one of them, try to get that into health services as soon as possible.
We're also going to be hosting an event virtually on November 5th for your student to pop in virtually and talk with financial aid, the CSS staff, and the bursar's office if they have questions. So in the next couple of weeks, if you do talk to your student and some questions pop up, they'll have that opportunity to meet with us virtually on November 5th from 12 to 1:30. So that will be another opportunity for them to connect with our offices.
Any final questions this evening?
Another question came through. You will have to pay by ACH. The payment plan will not take a physical check. You can send a physical check to the office on campus if you're paying an amount in full, but you would have to do an ACH transfer if you are doing the payment plan.
All right. Well, any final words, panelists?
I would just say thanks for joining us this evening. And, as we've already said, definitely contact our offices with any further questions. We're here to help you, make a smooth transition from fall to spring.
Yep, absolutely. And so just make sure your students checking their self-service, they're checking their email. Some of them may have opted into getting text messages as well. So if they're getting a communication from us, please have them reach out to us directly.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a great night.